So I'm going to talk a little bit about playing gypsy jazz on the acoustic guitar and how to solo. So there's several things about this. The most important thing that differs from playing sort of normal bebop guitar or something is that first thing is you don't really play the blues. If you had something like that, and you went, that's definitely out. Like, there are sort of circumstances where you kind of can do pentatonics and blues scale stuff, but it just doesn't. It is the one thing you can do that makes it not sound like gypsy jazz. You can imagine if you playing something like Sweet Georgia Brown, your first line was like, it just doesn't sound quite right. You'd be much, that song obviously, you'd much be preferred to try and hit arpeggios. So a lot of arpeggios is a big thing actually. You really need to be able to get across the guitar effectively to be able to hit the tempi in that music. So practicing things like, okay, if I'm playing an E, how do I play the sevenths, for example, in all positions? You know, that sort of move. Because, I mean, I think a lot of quite boilerplate moves in gypsy jazz involve just linking of arpeggios. So things like enclosures going. So these little things are like sort of essential, because even when you're playing a really simple tune, like with one chord, if you really notice what, say, Django does, there's a lot of time where he plays arpeggios which are not actually the arpeggio of the chord that he's playing over. So you know, you don't necessarily expect him to go. It's just A minor related stuff. You actually will hear him do things like play, I don't know if it's A minor. There's one where he does play like a D flat over it. I just can't remember exactly what solo that is. And he doesn't sort of tend to do it like a bop player would do, where you maybe go out of the key. I mean, that could work. Things like that. He tends to be actually quite just static. It would go like. Not really try to go in and out. And I think having the confidence to do that really brings another dimension to your playing. It's not a music to be vague with what you're doing. So even when you're playing lots of notes, you're talking big statements and trying to get across the instrument. This whole thing like this. You know. trying to get moved from one side to the other from here. So that is a big part of it, being able to get across the instrument. So sort of specific things to practice. Taking an arpeggio, let's just say A minor, for so I'm playing A minor most commonly where you play it in gypsy jazz with the raised six. So trying to do it in different ways with the seventh. So just trying to have different ways you can play that, and then trying to do it with other notes. So you'd have that's with the ninth or with the second, whatever you want to call it. And even just playing these in different order. And that's just those four notes. It already starts to sound quite significantly different from the sort of bebop sound of the sort of. Yeah, so that's one thing you can try to do, especially if you're trying to get across the guitar quickly. So if you do that, coming back down. I mean, you really don't want to be just playing quavers the whole time. You need these sort of things. Because actually an awful lot of this stuff is ultimately aiming to be played at high tempi. I mean, you've got to be able to hit the high tempi if you're going to try and do this sort of stuff. I mean, lots of people kicking around and do a kind of Radio 2 version of it, which is, kind of lame, It's not very, it's not trying to be politically incorrect, because, you say gypsies, like it's a, to describe a style of music. And I think whenever I learned quite a lot from hanging around with Romani people who played in the style, and there was always a sense of showmanship and sort of desiring to play in a quite high octane way, yeah, I mean, it's cool. That's kind of like I don't know to say what anybody's culture is, but the culture kind of tends to sort of go towards that. Certainly Django is hardly a shrinking violet the way he plays the guitar. It's like, he's playing extremely sensitively and very beautifully, but he's not, he's got probably, he set quite a standard of chops, actually. And still everybody, and a lot of people still just trying to emulate that, and that's fine, because he was actually really very good. But as I said, like adding one extra note to an arpeggio, like that one I just did, that's from a Django tune, actually. If you just add on top of that like an enclosure from the thing of the world of bebop, That kind of means that you're kind of going to be more mobile. Same thing at E. We've got a E7. We do a enclosure on top of that. Yeah, with all those arpeggios, you're already getting somewhere. If you add it, just get on top of that. Another thing is that when you're doing a chord soloing, anything like that, just as like the blues doesn't work particularly well. Another thing that doesn't work is playing quartal voicings. So that just doesn't sound quite right, particularly if you do chromatic things. That just always sounds off. So no blues. Big arpeggios, lots of speed, being able to play arpeggios in a different key, and no quartal chords. There you go. That's a start.